Welcome to the Cross the Line podcast. My name is Carlos Smith, and today we have another special guest with us. He is the Jonesville Police Chief, and right now I'm sitting with Mr. Carl Jennings. How are you?
I'm fine. How y'all doing?
Doing pretty good. First off, let me say, I know we're not all the way at the finish line yet, but congratulations.
Thank you.
We still have a ways to go, but first off, kind of tell us a little bit how you feeling right now heading into next week.
Well, I'm feeling positive about heading into next week, but you never know what the citizens are doing or what they're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But as for me, I'm feeling positive about next week.
Absolutely. And one of the things what really made us want to do this interview as well, everybody needs to know more about what's going on locally in the community. And I had a good friend spoke to me. He was like, I like Carl Jennings from a distance, but I want him to speak out more. So this is a chance for people to actually get to know more about you. So starting out, can you tell people a little bit who don't know, like, who is Carl Jennings?
Well, I'm a Christian. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm your average guy next door. That's who I am. I'm very approachable. But like you said, people that don't know me don't know that.
Right.
But the people who do know me know that I'm a likable person. And unfortunately, I'm in law enforcement, and some people don't, how they perceive law enforcement is like they're unapproachable.
Absolutely. And what made you talk a little bit about your background first of all before I get to my next question? Like, tell us a little bit about like how you got into law enforcement and your overall history of like your work experience.
Okay, what I did is I graduated in 1990 from Union High School, and then I went into the military. I joined the National Guard and here at Union headquarters, and I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey. And as I was in Fort Dix, New Jersey, I got stop lost when the first desert storm broke out, and it extended my time past 180 days. So at that point, I become a regular Army veteran. I come back home, and I actually did 9 years with the South Carolina National Guard. Went to work for Nestle Frozen Foods in Gaffney, and I worked there for 12 years. And as I worked for Nestle, I left Nestle and I went to work for the cable industry, and then I met my wife at the time. I actually met my wife at Nestle, and then we had a child. So that in turn started letting me know to pick a career path, because the mills, the cotton mills, the textile mills in Union were closing down. And I started looking at a career, and I started to think, well, I need to get in law enforcement or medical field. Because as I was in the military, a friend of mine, he was a nurse. He was a male nurse, and he was telling me the benefits of the male nurse and how much they were getting paid. And you got to look at it too, thinking logically. People get sick, so there's a need for the medical field. And then some people just don't learn, and people commit crime. So there's a career field for that. So that's what ultimately got me into law enforcement. I was looking for a career path. I had a small child, and then I wanted a career instead of just going here and there with jobs.
And as you worked your way up the ladder, how long did it actually take you to become the police chief here in Jonesville?
Well, I actually went to work for Cherokee County Sheriff Office in 2008 in the detention division, and ultimately worked there for 2 years and got offered a job on the road with Gaffney City. Went to Gaffney City in 2010, and I worked my way up to being a traffic safety officer and various other things in Gaffney City. And got offered a job here in Jonesville in 2014. And it was closer to home, and that made my decision to come back to Union, and they were going to pay more money than what I was making in Gaffney City, so that was a no-brainer. I came back to Jonesville. I worked with my chief for about 6 months, and he got injured in the line of duty. And being with my work experience and my work ethic here, I got promoted to corporal. And in 2015 of July, my chief had been gone a year, and they appointed me to chief in July 2015.
Now, I want to ask you, as a police officer, we asked the same thing to when we were at Spartanburg City Hall when we sat with Chief Thompson and Major Littlejohn and Captain Suber, working in law enforcement. They sometimes get ridiculed and they get called names like a Uncle Tom or a Coon because they're black officers. Have you ever had to encounter any of that kind of stuff working in law enforcement?
Yes, I have experienced that. I have experienced that in Gaffney City. You get called all kind of names, but you got to have thick skin. This is a profession that you chose to get into. You better be able to handle the ridicule and the name calling.
Absolutely. And it's important for us because, like we saying, we need you guys, somebody that looks like us. And like I'll tell you the same thing that I told those gentlemen as well. It's like I don't want to have an encounter with law enforcement at all, but if I have to, I just feel more comfortable sitting with talking to an African American officer, somebody that looks like me, as opposed to a white officer, because we see time and time again what happens. And it's not all cops, like we always say, but we just seen the incident this past weekend down in Atlanta where another unarmed black man was killed. Even though he ran off with a taser, he was running away. But the same thing, and we just constantly see these things. So for me, it's like I'm terrified to like just have an encounter with law enforcement, but at the same time, we're thankful that you guys do it because we still need somebody that looks like us to work in law enforcement.
Yes, and you know, I've talked to various groups on encounters with law enforcement, and and it starts with how you approach someone. I mean, black, white, or indifferent. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you talk to somebody with respect, they shouldn't fear, you know, the outcome of what's going on. And if you go and talk to somebody, you already created an incident. If you go and hollering and carrying on, you know, you already make a situation that's bad for the person who's pulled over by the officer, because, you know, their anxiety level is already up. Mm-hmm. And that just makes it bad. So I just tell people, try to educate them on dealing with the encounter with a police officer, you know, just be mindful who you're dealing with. Mm-hmm.
But is there a certain technique or what should officers do more of? Because like we see these things, and it's like a lot of times these officers, once they see us, for some reason, and like I said, it's not all of them, but it appears that the black man appears as a threat for some reason. We're unarmed, we stop, we try to unarmed, not doing anything, but it's still at the same time, it's like we constantly see these things where unarmed black men and women are being killed with law enforcement. Like what goes into the training? What should these officers do as they approach us?
Well, I feel, this is going to be my personal feeling on that. As for me, I never really had an incident on the road, you know, because I try to treat people with respect. But for some people, they just, safe to say they're scared. Mm-hmm. And then as it being a black man, they have this stereotypical thing of a black male personified in their mind already. Mm-hmm. And then that's where it's at. We got to look at that, you know, we talk about, just like we talk about social injustice, and that's one of the things, you know, they look at the black man and they automatically think already that, you know, it's going to be an issue. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case. I mean, you got to treat that with baby gloves, kid gloves, that you talk to people just like you want to be talked to, and you'll see how smooth that situation can turn out. You know, and I can't say for each individual officer, but I know that's my stance on it. When I approach a vehicle, you know, I cite what's going on, let them know where I'm stopping them, and then we move on from there. Right. Now, whether they get a ticket or a warning, it dictates by their attitude. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, like, this is one of my other questions where you kind of answered on so does it depend on, like, tickets? Does that depend on how somebody treats you, or is it just like one of those things where you just gonna automatically get a ticket? Like, how severe is it, or what goes into giving someone a ticket?
A ticket is okay. The only thing we're doing is enforcing the law. Okay, we're on the mm-hmm. executive branch, and the only thing we do is enforce what the laws that comes out of the state. And if they violating the code of laws, you know, per se, of what the actual violation is, that's what it's called for. You know, is either citation, and that's up to each individual officer whether they issue a ticket or a citation or not. You know, in some cases, if you riding 15 miles over the speed limit, in my field, in my line of work, I'm giving you a ticket because it can be dangerous. That can be actually dangerous, and it depends on the area you're in. That it's actually excessive speed is too much.
I want to change gears just a little bit. With so much going on, I know everybody has a lot going on in their communities. But I just want to know from your personal opinion, what's your view of Union County right now?
Well, Union County has issues like, other people has issues. My view on Union County is that we have had a black eye over Union County for a time now. And it stems from everything. And one of the most notable things that when outside of Union and you hear people talk is the courthouse, the Susan Smith situation. That's one of the notable things that we're known for. And then now, we have a situation with the sheriff office. And it's just too much. Once you'd be proud to say you're from Union, but then you're reluctant to even speak on it because people are already, you're the butt of the jokes now. And that's one of the things that we see going on outside of Union. I don't know if we see it, but you hear it.
Now, speaking of the stuff that's going on at the courthouse, as a Democratic nominee, as a candidate, do you worry that, of course, Sheriff Taylor was a Democrat, Democrat. Do you worry that the allegations surrounding him kind of puts a stain on a Democrat?
No, I don't think in a whole it puts a stain on the Democrats. I just think that that's an individual person that has to answer for his individual actions. Whether it be true or not, any allegations, that's that individual. And I don't think it put a stain of distrust on the Democratic Party because it's, like I said, it's an individual.
And it comes down to accountability, something we got to figure out a way to hold these people accountable. And it was just something that I pulled up. It was just a report. It was on WYFL Channel 4, and they were talking about the Slade investigation on Miss Kimberly Bailey. It was reported by WYFL that $76,315 for sex offender registry was unaccounted for, and then another $50,153 for drug money was unaccounted for. And this was the part that really stuck out to me when Slade interviewed her. They asked were others engaged in criminal activity, and she went on to say not criminal but immoral. So tell me, how do we hold these people accountable? Because when stuff like this happens, people in the community lose trust in the system. So how do we hold these people accountable when stuff like this happens?
So what we have to do is we have to hold them accountable. You can't sit up here and lead by example, so to speak, and then have doing stuff, and then when other people are doing stuff, you can't hold them accountable with the fear of backlash on you for doing stuff, immoral. So what you have to do is you have to lead by example. You have to have a sound moral compass, and you have to let that be shown throughout your department or who's working for you. So you let them know that this stuff is not allowed, not acceptable at all.
And do you think it's a matter of, and I know it's not everybody, but it's like kind of to some degree maybe clean house. No, it's not everybody, but it starts at the top. So accountability starts there. Of course, we'll have a new sheriff this year, but how do you plan on fixing it if elected? Like, what's the plan?
Well, we are held to a high standard. I mean, and even though it's always being said that we are held to a high standard, and we are, because whether people look at you, and just like, let's say, you got to be like if you're an athlete, you're an ideal athlete. You got to be an ideal athlete on and off the court, and that's the same way I feel about deputies or any law enforcement. You got to hold that high standard on and off the court. You know what I mean? And that's what has to be done. We have to have the officers realize that this is a career that's being scrutinized and it's being looked at, and you have to hold an exemplary standard. And, regain that trust to people and get out in the communities and let your voice be heard as well.
Talk a little bit about the duties as a sheriff. What are they supposed to be doing? Because when this type of money goes missing, that's a problem. So what is it that a sheriff is supposed to do in these kind of situations? Of course, they had the investigation, it's ongoing. But what is the sheriff supposed to do in this situation when this type of money goes?
Well, I'm a chief of police. I don't know but if money was missing here, it would definitely go, get investigated. Calling somebody to investigate where is this money going. And once you find out where it's going, you hold those people accountable. I mean, you don't pressure people, but you let the right authorities, investigate and find out where this money's going, and you hold those people accountable.
Absolutely. Now, as a sheriff, do you know, if you can answer this, do you know how much pull do they have when it comes to the education and job opportunities coming to this to the community?
I've said this in the past. I think that when a developer come in to look at the county and they look and see if the education field is subpar or up to par, that's one of the things, the determining factor that, if they have families, they don't want them to come to a place that they're failing in the school system. Now, the sheriff wouldn't have anything to do with it. But on the side of when they also come and look at the crime, they say, well, we're going to put a factory here. We want to see, how the crime is here. Now, if you have a law enforcement entity that is in a scandal, then definitely not. I really believe that they're looking at those two things. They're looking at education and the crime. And when you have a law enforcement entity that's disheveled, so to speak, they don't want no part of it.
Absolutely. And kind of going back to the black eye a little bit, I know you said something, and I want to point it out as well. When we did an interview back in Atlanta, back in December, we had Dr. Lakeisha Hallman on, owner of the Village Market, and she asked where we were from, and I told her I'm from Jonesville. I said, it's like right beside Union. And the very first thing she said was, "Oh, that's where the Susan Smith incident happened." So I was like, "Yeah, that's where it happened. It took place there." I mean, I was a baby at the time when it happened. But what would you say is the biggest problem with Union right now, overall?
Well, right now, it's been a problem with the drug situation. The war on drugs has been an issue here in Union County. The unsolved homicides are an issue here in Union County. And here recently is the gun violence here in Union County upon the black community. We did have a incident that happened in Lockhart here in Union County that it was two white males, but it's been prevalent right now that the gun violence in Union County between the black males and the black community is to me is staggering. From what we didn't have this going on, and that's some of the main issues I see right now in Union.
I think one of the things for me that kind of bothers me is I feel like we're not really doing enough for the youth as far as education wise. Now of course we have Little League now, but I still feel like we need more activities for the youth to get into to keep them off the streets. But it seems like we don't have enough. Is there any way that we can bring some more of that stuff around to keep kids off the street, give them something to do during the summertime? Because it feels like for so long that it's been kind of like old money in the town, where it's family members keeping everything together, like a buddy system to a certain degree. And I feel like now times are starting to change, but we need to keep fighting, and we need more stuff for the youth involvement. So is there any other thing that we can do to keep these kids off the street?
Well, I've said all along that sheriff office is a law enforcement entity first. And I think that they can use this platform. The sheriff office can do more to bring the youth together, engage the youth, and try to facilitate them with something, or work with community leaders to try to facilitate something for the youth, because we actually have nothing in Union. We have nothing. I mean, you have your school sports, and then what you're going to do after that.
Yes.
I mean, we have absolutely nothing for the youth to do, and I think the platform of sheriffs need to engage the youth. Whether if you start some type of activities involving the law enforcement with the youth, and my impact on the youth here in Jonesville, that's one of the things. You got to engage the youth, because they are the future. And then when you engage the youth before they engage you as they get older, you make a positive individual. And I feel that we can change that in Union County with the help of other community leaders and sit down and talk about it. Well, we definitely got to have something for the youth to do.
Absolutely. And I think you have to reach out to them early, because if you wait too long, they fear the police officer. Then a lot of people start getting in their ears, and then you hear a lot of things like F the police and stuff like that. Well, so I think you still have to get out, like you said, reach out to them and try to catch them early.
Well, one of the things that, you know, you can talk to any law enforcement officer. Even if I was to go into the grocery store, and you know how some kids act up when they get into a Walmart or something, and they want a toy, or they want something. You know how it is. You know, a kid get in there and say, "Mama, I want this. I want a candy bar or something." And you see the police. What the first thing they do? They say, "I'm gonna have him lock you up." That's the police, and that is the wrong thing to do, because some kids get that they're impressionable in the early stage, and they taking it in. And when they see a law enforcement, they scared of the law enforcement because they're gonna take you away from your mom. You know, and that's the wrong thing to say to a child, because like I said, they're impressionable at that age, and they stick with them, and we can't have that because they actually believe it.
Absolutely. So how often as an officer would you say you have these negative encounters, or are you treated differently when you're not in uniform?
No. My tenure in law enforcement, I really haven't had no negative encounters, because, you know, I try to treat people, you know, like I would want to be treated. And you know, you're gonna have some people that don't like you because you're in law enforcement, or they have to deal with you on that side. You know, if you got a ticket from me, I can understand your disdain because you got a ticket from me. You know, but you know, me as a person, that's my job, that's my career, that's what I chose to do. You know, I chose to get in law enforcement, and if you don't do anything you don't have any business, then you don't have to worry about it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's just it. I mean, you have a lot of people that dislike law enforcement for one officer that, you know, like that. One rotten apple spoil the whole bunch, you know. And everybody ain't like that. I mean, I can sit here and tell you, I work with a great group of guys through my years. And here in Jonesville, what I've tried to do is try to hire like-minded people, you know, from what the message that I want to get out there to the community, that, you know, we're not like that. You know, if you have to deal with us, you've done something wrong.
Absolutely. I want to tie that in, like the encounters with people, like some kind of negative encounters with like the voting. Do you worry that just because some people, like you may have given somebody a ticket, do you worry about some of those segment of voters may not vote for you because, well, he gave me a ticket, so I'm not going to vote for him? Do you worry about that?
I don't worry about it, because, you know, I have a job to do, you know. And if you, like I said, if you didn't do anything wrong, then you wouldn't have to worry about us. And that's just, if they take it to heart like that, you know, there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, that's just their mindset. I mean, you know, I can't dwell on that. I did a job.
Right.
And if you feel like you don't want to vote for me because I had to do that job, you know, that's totally up to you.
How do you feel about the voting process overall? Do you think it's fair, or would you make some adjustments to it? How do you feel about it?
Well, what we did, the voting process now, as of June 9th, when I went to vote, it seems streamlined, and it was a whole lot easier. I mean, I didn't see nothing. I thought it was all right. I don't see nothing that could be changed different. They made changes from the last time to this time, and it seemed to be streamlined and pretty easy.
Cause I seen people last week, they were saying when they went to the polls that they were asking them, were you Democrat or Republican, and sometimes they were giving some people running around, not necessarily here, but I think some people are maybe saying some stuff like that in Spartanburg. But should they even be asking those type of questions when you're going to vote?
Well, I think that it was a certain thing that was going on with how they was voting, how it was set up, you know, because you had a Democratic primary, and then you had some people on this side running Republican for something else. So they just want, I guess they just wanted to make sure you got in the right place, or you know, when the help them to navigate them, because this was a new system they in place this time.
And I know some, of course, voter suppression, that's been the issue, but if we do come across any of these issues, who do we contact? Should they be trying to reach out to you, or who?
No, the Voters Registration Office.
Voters Registration.
The Voters Registration Office.
Is there any specific group for you that you're trying to reach out to, such as maybe like the young group or the older group? Of course, the youth, we are the future, but is there a specific group that you've been trying to target?
As in campaigning? of course, the ones who are eligible to vote, you know, but, you know, as in my message, my mindset is engaging the youth, because I've always been the person outside of law enforcement, before I ever got into I love children. And, you know, I think they are the future, and they cannot defend themselves. And my thing is, we got to look out for the children.
Absolutely.
But as a voter demographic, they see my work. You know, they see what I've tried to accomplish and the message that I want to bring now, and that should extend throughout, you know, all demographics, all ages.
Absolutely. Let's just be honest with the voting. You know, we're gonna have a segment of people that may vote for you because you're black, and then there may be another group that may not vote for you because you're black. And then there's gonna be some people that's gonna be like straight down the middle. So what do you say to those people who are like down the middle? They just want the best candidate. What do you say to those people? Because there's really nothing you can do about those that may not vote for you because you're black.
Right. I just say pick your best person that you want to listen to the message, and go with the person who you think is best for the job.
Absolutely. And as far as like the voting, is it too late for registration? Like, is it too late for those people, or do they still have time to?
You have to be registered to vote for 30 days.
30 days, okay.
30 days. So they can go and get registered and vote in November. But for this time, for the primary and the runoff, they can't register to vote.
So what do you plan on doing leading up to the election? Are you plan on doing something different from last week, or what do you plan on doing?
I'm just trying to get out and talk to some more people, and try to, you know, let people know. Some people have a misconception that the only vote is November vote. You know, they need to know that they had a primary, now it's a runoff. They just need to know that they need to get out and vote. It's, you know, it's important that they need to know that these steps are needed or need to be taken. That's just not the general election in November. You know, you had your primaries, now we have a runoff. We just need to let them know that they need to get out and vote.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of times, see, during election time, it's dream selling season. So people will say whatever just to get in office, and sometimes they'll bash the other candidates that's running. But and I'm not asking you to bash anybody, but what separates you from your other candidate?
Well, the only thing that would separate me from the other candidate is that I have passion and ambition for a better union. I just feel like that I have something to offer Union County that I've tried to do here in Jonesville. I just want to extend it out to Union County, because I've sat back and looked, and my hands are tied at things that's going on in Union County because I'm here in Jonesville. And I just want to extend that compassion and that love for the county throughout the county. I want the Union County citizens to have a better law enforcement entity in the sheriff's office. That's basically it.
Got a few more questions, and then we'll get ready to wrap it up. I want to change subject once again, but it's only right with everything going on. I want to ask you about the social injustice, and what are your thoughts on everything? Because the George Floyd incident, I feel like it was groundbreaking. I think it started to open a lot of people's eyes, and we're starting to see some change. A lot of laws being made now, and a lot of protests going on. Not with just us. We see white people are also protesting with us. But how do you feel about the social injustice? Like, what do you tell these officers with everything going on?
You know, just be mindful of how you treat people. You know, we still, you got to look at it that the schools were desegregated in 1968. That was 52 years ago. So we still young to the fact that you still have racism.
Absolutely.
That's only 52 years. We are young. We are still young to the fact of black and whites coming together, or any other nationality. Even though we don't want to see that, but that is a fact, you know. It ain't like we in 100 years, you know. Now I can say in 100 years you be like, oh, this shouldn't be going on. But like I said, 52 years, you got to think that when they brought black and whites together, and the officers, they just need to be mindful and respectful to, you know, because ultimately you work for the citizens.
Mhm.
And you just can't go out there and treat anybody. It's just unbearable sometimes of stuff that I see that happens in law enforcement and citizens, because we shouldn't act that way. I mean, you know, you have intense situations, but you've been trained to deal with that. Use your training how you're supposed to use your training, and you won't fall victim to this scrutiny, you know, the stuff that's going on, or be the person that they're talking about.
Absolutely. Because I got to be honest, when I seen the George Floyd incident, it's hard. It's still hard to watch. I think I've only watched it twice, but the way that they used force and the other officers held him down, it's like that was too much. And to see how they did that man, it was just like it was unnecessary.
There was no training. We in South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy, we are not trained like that. I have an issue with it because he was no longer a threat, and you still treated him like a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And just the knee situation is no, we weren't trained like that, so that shouldn't have never been happening. And like I said, for people to sit there and watch unjust happen and not say anything or try to intervene, you just as guilty as the perpetrator.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I tell people all the time, like, well, I love to read a lot, and I remember reading the autobiography from Malcolm X. One of the things he said is, how can we as a black man fight for civil rights when we first don't have human rights? And watching that video, they didn't treat him like a human. They just treated him just like a piece of trash or anything. He just had his knee on it. It's like, this kind of stuff is not acceptable in our community.
Again, we still a young nation.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I ain't making no excuses for nobody. I don't think it's right, you know, but still in the mindset of some people that, you know, we shouldn't be living in a time of racism, because the people who have lived in racism almost gone.
Absolutely.
So now it's being taught.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that, like this officer, I don't know nothing about him, but you know, it's instilled in him, you know, and he should have had the right frame of mind to know that this wasn't right. And if the man, one mayor said, if you can talk, you can breathe.
It's stuff that's ingrained.
That's not the issue. I mean, you hollering out for your life. You know, you feel like you are an impending doom. Of course, you're gonna scream and holler whatever you can do to get out your last message. You know, and that's what I feel he was doing. He was letting him know, I can't breathe. You know.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I feel, to me, it just goes back to just looking at a black man as a threat for some reason. In handcuffs, like what else can he do? And you see things like that, unarmed and black and dead again.
And then we don't know the mindset of the officers. Just like other things came out that they was working as bouncers together at a place, so they could have had some strife, and that played out into that too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just a whole lot of variables. But at the end of the day, that was completely wrong how he treated him.
And it felt like it was personal.
Mm-hmm.
To do somebody that type of way.
It did.
It had to be personal.
But my thing is the officers that stand around looking, and they know that ain't the type of training. They probably not know the backstory about between them two, but still, that was just negligence on their part to allow that to go on.
Absolutely. A couple more questions, and then we'll get ready to wrap it up. So, what do you feel like the officers need to do? Do you think they need more training in the communities to be more, I guess, have a better relationship with the people that they're policing overall?
I think the officers do need to be out in the communities and have a better relationship with the community.
Mm-hmm.
Because see, what happens when you get out in the community and you're talking with the people begin to trust you. Because, you know, just like, let's say stranger danger. If you in the car and then they don't know you, you don't know them, they're reluctant to speak to you. But if you get out there and break that ice and you talk to that individual and you build a relationship with the community, then they're more apt to talk to you. They're more apt to give you information that you probably wouldn't get by sitting in the car. You definitely got to get out in the community and build that trust, build that relationship back with them.
Absolutely. And kind of going back to what happened to George Floyd, officers, we say it all the time, we feel like you guys need to speak out more. Not saying that y'all don't do it, but officers, we need to see more officers speaking out against the bad ones because they put your lives in danger when they do those type of things.
Exactly.
But we don't all the time. We don't always see officers speak out against it for some odd reason.
Because some type of code of silence, and some officers just feel like if they speak out against an injustice, that they will be marked as snitch, rat, and then they be treated different inside the facility and won't get help. Because if somebody, we ain't seen this thing, if somebody goes to tell on an officer, then they might be in a pinch themselves, and then the officer might say, well, he's in trouble, we're going to take our time getting to him. It's just, that's how things are. This is reality here. So that's why they don't say anything to keep themselves out of trouble.
But see, that's so dangerous to know.
It's very
to know
dangerous.
that you have these kind of people working in law enforcement. So that kind of goes back to the training and the background, like officers.
It is so many variables to this, and I'm the one that if I see something wrong, I'm like, you ain't supposed to do that. That ain't how that's supposed to be done. We wouldn't train like that, because I value life. I value life, humanity, and that's one thing. I'm here to preserve life best possible. That's my job. Even though I have to do a job, I have to do a service. I'm here to preserve life. Ultimately, that's my job.
Absolutely. I want to get your opinion on something else that's been talked about as well. It's like the defunding the police officers, like the police departments. What are your thoughts? Because I think people are misunderstanding it. I think they're thinking that they're saying we should just completely just do away with police. That's not how I interpret it. But what are your thoughts on this going on, like defunding the police?
Well, from my understanding, defunding means taking away money from them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then in turn that you won't have that level of how would I say it? You won't have that level of for police experience. I mean, they start defunding the police, that's gonna cut back on police.
Mm-hmm.
If they defund the payroll, that means less officers, or better equipment to really, the officers that really need to help you to have. If they start defunding the police, it's gonna be worse on the citizens than the police department, because then they won't have the equipment to help you.
But say they take away some of the money, but from what I was seeing, what they were saying, some ideas was if you take a little bit away and then you reallocate it to the communities, that way you have more resources for the communities, maybe possibly try to create jobs or anything. Would that help kind of keep crime down just a little bit? Instead of because I think people were just saying, when they say defund means just completely just wipe away with them, and that's not the case.
No, that wouldn't be good for the nation.
Exactly.
That wouldn't be good for the nation, because you think that the looting and stuff in light of the George Floyd situation, you just think of all the other crimes that's going to escalate if you start wiping out police.
Absolutely. So, like I said, we definitely need you guys. We appreciate you, but the few that do these things make it look bad for everybody.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So
Exactly.
we need officers to speak out, not just the black police officers. We need the white voices, those powerful voices, to speak out against it as well, because a lot of people don't want to acknowledge it, but people are acknowledging it a lot more now. But we still have some that don't want to acknowledge it. Racism is still alive, and we need to dismantle it as much as we can. But we still need as many black voices we have speaking out against it. It's just as important to have those white voices speak out against it as well, in law enforcement and in the community overall. But my final question before we get ready to wrap it up, before we get to next Tuesday, what would you say is your final message to the people listening?
I need y'all to get out and vote. If you want change, get out and vote. But if you have an issue, and if you don't get out and vote, and you want the person that you don't want in office, and when something goes wrong, or that you don't like, you don't have the right to put your 2 cents in.
Absolutely.
So that means if you want change, if you want the candidate that you really want in there, you need to get out and vote.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief Jennings. Thank you for your time. Good luck next week. It's gonna be another busy week. Don't let it stress you out. I know it's gonna be
It's been a roller coaster. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely. But thank you for all you do. Thank you for everybody here that's doing their job. Thank you for all for keeping us safe. Like I said, it's not all of you, just those few that make it hard for the rest of you guys. But thank you for your job. Good luck next week. And hopefully everybody enjoyed this interview. You took something away from it. Please go out and vote, because times are really changing. Change is coming. Everybody's voices need to be heard, so you have a chance next Tuesday and then again in November to let your voice be heard. So until next time, keep chasing dreams. This is Across the Line Podcast. Thank you for listening.